After a brief lull, Russian troops again launched a combined strike on enemy facilities in the western regions of Ukraine. In Ivano-Frankivsk region, the incoming strikes were noted in the area of Burshtyn TPP and Kolomyia airfield, while in Cherkassy region, Kaniv HPP was hit. At the same time, in the center of Dnipro, local guerrillas detonated an explosive device on the grounds of the regional military enlistment office. As a result of the detonation, at least one military enlistment officer was eliminated, and several other police officers and AFU servicemen were injured. Ukrainian forces, in turn, after a long period of time, again tried to attack the military airfield in Saratov. The drone was shot down on approach to the facility without causing any damage to the infrastructure. The enemy did not ignore the facilities of the fuel and energy complex. As a result of an incoming UAV attack on the territory of the Bryansk loading point, a fire broke out at the facility, which was quickly extinguished. Another energy facility was hit by a Ukrainian drone raid on an oil storage facility near Oriol. As a result of UAV detonation, 2 fuel tanks caught fire, which were extinguished after 23 hours. In addition, Ukrainian Forkers attacked the Rostov region for the first time with U.S. operational tactical missiles. As a result of air defense operation, 2 missiles were shot down and 4 more were deflected by REB systems. There was no significant damage, but there were casualties among the personnel. The barracks buildings of the Interior Ministry's Special Regiment in Grozny have also been hit twice this week. As a result of one of the Ukrainian drone attacks, at least 4 men of the Guard were wounded. And in the Leningrad region, one of the Ukrainian drones was conducting reconnaissance in the area of Vysotsky Island. As a result of the work of air defense forces, the drone fell into the Gulf of Finland, no damage or casualties. On the Kursk direction near the village of Zhuravka, Suja district, fiber optic controlled drones hit 2 Challenger 2 tanks. On the opposite flank, Russian troops conducted an attack near the Syol River, gaining a foothold on the eastern outskirts of Kurilovka. In the Slobozhanske direction, the front configuration remained relatively stable, both in Vovchansk and near Hlibok. In the area of the latter, several AFU APCs were hit by drone strikes during the week. In the Kupiansko-Svatovi direction, fighting continued in the Zagrazov area and on the northern outskirts of Kolesnikivka. Attacks by Ukrainian forces were thwarted by artillery fire and strikes by UAV operators. In the Lyman direction, fierce fighting continues in the center of the village of Terny. Ukrainian forces are moving reinforcements to the area in an attempt to stabilize the front line. In the Siversk direction, Ukrainian forces attempted several attacks within the borders of Bilohorivka. Having lost 2 Cossack AFVs, the enemy could not achieve any success and retreated to their original positions. In the Artemivsk direction, Russian troops are fighting in the area of the Chasev Yar refractory plant. After the capture of this major defense node, the Russian armed forces will be able to move on to the clearing of the central districts of the city. On the Oleksandrivska-Kalinov direction, Russian troops began to storm the AFU defenses in the south of Sherbinivka. This became possible after most of the Zabalka neighborhood in Dzerzhinsk came under the control of the Russian armed forces. In the Pokrovsk direction, the main offensive of the Russian army is developing from the direction of Novopustinka. To the west of the village, Russian armed forces units are fighting in Novotroitske, while to the north, there are fierce clashes in Shevchenko. To the south, Russian troops managed to liberate Pushkin, gaining a foothold on the western outskirts of the settlement. In the near future, the Russian armed forces will clear the nearby pocket and continue the offensive on the Novolenivka-Ukrainka line. The situation is developing dynamically in the Kurakov direction. where advances have been recorded in several areas. In Kurakov itself, units of the Russian armed forces advanced along Nahorna 1 and 2 streets in Zaporizhsky Avenue, liberated the Yuzhny micro-district, and planted a flag on the administration building. On the southern flank, the Russian armed forces liberated Anivka and Vasily High and hoisted flags there. At the same time, most of Uspanivka came under the control of Russian troops, and fighting broke out in Kostiantynopolsky. On the Vremivka direction, fighting is taking place on the approaches to Novyi Komar, Velika Novosilka, and in Rozdolne. Ukrainian forces are attempting counterattacks, but all of them are successfully foiled. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the presence of the Russian armed forces was recorded northwest of Robotyne. At the same time, Russian troops worked on the AFU temporary dislocation points. In turn, Ukrainian formations hit civilian objects in Zaporizhzhia region. Also, an enemy drone attacked an IAEA vehicle near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. On the Kherson direction, positional fighting continues in the island zone of the Dnipro River. At the same time, the AFU is shelling residential houses and infrastructure on the left bank of the Dnipro.